We're ready to go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the session from hops to cheers. So today we'll discuss a very exciting case for the entire agro-food chain. We'll look at how AI and data integration helps value creation for innovative startups and how they can be scaled up very efficiently. So to my left, I have a very exciting panelist. I have Ines. She is the co-founder and CEO of Econoki, which is a Spanish startup company specializing in growing crops, hops indoor. They revolutionized the technology to achieve both sustainability and profitability. And we have Rick Snijders, the department head of Siemens. He will share with us the insight of how big companies is helping in upscaling and building the ecosystem around innovative business models. And as part of the important stakeholder network ecosystem, we have, of course, the big brands. And we have Kaylin Richardson from Ahold Delhaize, one of the biggest mother company for supermarket chains, to tell us what is the role for big brands in this journey of digital transformation of agri-food world. And last, to the very left, is Dick Veerman. He is the founder of Foodlog, a very respected and senior industry watcher. And lastly, myself. My name is Tiffany Tsui. I'm a strategist and researcher specializing in the topic of digital transformation. So to start off, I'd like to maybe a raise of hands. We all followed recent political development of the Green Deal, of CSRD, and Scope 3 requirements, sustainability on farmers. How many of here think that it is possible for farmers to maintain sustainability and profitability with the coming a lot of challenges and opportunities? So if you agree, you think it is possible, please raise your hand, say yes. Okay. And the rest is, do you say no, you don't think that's possible? Maybe also show the hands. Who says no? Oh. You have an agreeable audience for your case, Ines. So I'm sure you're
optimistic.
Optimistic audience today. So Ines, please tell us your business model and how do you balance sustainability and profitability in your very exciting startup?
Well, in our case, the first thing that we did was choose the right crop. So we're growing hops in a controlled environment. And, well, hops is the green gold that gives beer its distinct bitterness and aroma. And you may not know it, but it's under severe climate change risk. It's grown in a handful of places around the world, and with extreme weather in these locations, in terms of drought, higher than average temperatures, they're having significant reductions in both the yields and the quality levels. So that's why we decided to focus on growing hops. Getting to the profitability is where, for us, it's very important to partner with the brewer to make sure that we build the farms custom-made next to or near to the brewer so that we can supply them with all the hops that they need of the cultivars, of the varieties that they're interested in.
I think you have a presentation to tell the story, right?
Can
we maybe
do.
show?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Can I pass it with this? Okay. Yeah, this is, I don't know if you've seen hops growing outdoors. This is what they look like. And if we don't do anything about it, we may be going for a world of boring beer. So that's why, we're on a mission to save the world's beer. This is our pilot farm in Galicia, in northwestern Spain. And how do we do it? Well, we bring a lot of science, but also the technology. And we started prototyping technology on our own. And then through the 100 Plus Accelerator, where we were partnering with ABI, we also partnered with Siemens that helped us to bring that to industrial quality to make sure that we had reliability and robustness in the technology so that we could scale this internationally. And obviously, that combination of knowledge and technology, what we wish is to eliminate risk from the equation while optimizing the use of precious resources. So what we offer brewers, and this is how I think we're disrupting a bit the industry, is that bringing that guaranteed supply of the cultivars that they want, premium quality, top quality cultivars, while at the same time having a positive environmental impact. And here, as you'll see with other controlled environment crops, we use significantly less water. We use only renewable energy, and obviously we don't use any pesticides or fungicides or herbicides, and we have much higher yields per hectare than outdoors. And as I was saying, the business model is quite different. So we reach offtake agreements, long-term agreements, where we grow the hops that the brewer wants, and in exchange also we have access to their power purchase agreement for renewable energy at a reasonable price, for their residual water, which we can filter and use in our watering system, and for the excess CO2 from their fermentation. From this, well, the idea is to grow it a bit all over the world, there where there's a brewer that's worried with the reliability of their supply chain, but also with the sustainability impact. And yeah, I think that covers it.
Wow, very exciting. So can you mention also a little bit the kind of partnership that was critical for you to achieve this sustainability-driven business model?
Yeah, I think we've had an approach to building partnerships at each level. So, in the case of Siemens, they've helped us to, make sure that once we knew what we needed in terms of data, of control, of automation, okay, this is the existing solution. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel from scratch. We didn't have to, do it all over again. We really used existing technology, customized it for our needs, but also at the end of the value chain. And here we have a colleague from AB InBev, whom they've been helping us for the past year and a half with accessing a lot of knowledge that's out there on the hops industry, and also helping us to validate, okay, is this the right quality? What else could we bring? What do we need to be careful with? So it's really, making sure that we don't have to start everything from scratch, but rather these win-win partnerships are helping us, I think, to get farther than if we were doing it on our own.
It's great. And what about, do you have, how do you leverage technology to help solving some of the challenges? For example, how do you make sure you have consistent, always good supply of renewable energy? Because that's a critical part of your business model, right?
Yeah, on the renewable energy, there we rely a lot on the supply from the brewer, from the client, because they have these sort of larger scale commitments with with supply of renewable energy, but also with Siemens, we're going to start working with some of the energy management systems to make sure that we optimize the use of the energy in each of the different elements of our indoor farm, being the lighting or the climate or whatever it may be.
Okay, great. So let's move on to our next panelist, Rick. Yeah. So how did Siemens worked with Econoki since the very beginning from in his presentation. Yeah. How did Siemens leverage technology to help Econoki maintain the crop quality, but same time achieve the environmental impact concerns?
No, definitely. So maybe to explain, and I think we also have a slide. Yes, this one. So maybe to explain a little bit who is Siemens, maybe some of you know it already. Siemens is an industrial automation company that's providing hardware, software for many industries. For example, the beer industry, but also the whole food and beverage industry. You have many sub-markets, and they all need to have automation and digitalization solutions to scale, to have production, and think about the building, think about all the processes within a factory. So it's a huge supply chain actually that you want to automate. And if you go really back a bit back to the beginning of the supply chain, and I think this picture really frames it really good, is that the agriculture part is becoming more and more important, because if you look to our supply chain in general, we need to change. We will have more and more people on this planet, and our raw materials are getting are not sustainable. So I think one of the great ideas and also the missions that Econoc has is that they really want to drive sustainability with technology. So that is perfectly fitting to the strategy and the vision that also Siemens has. And what you see actually, a lot of these smaller companies that are having great ideas, they all need to have one thing, and that is how to scale with automation and digitalization. But you need to help them making this step. So what is really important is that you have a tailor-made solution for these companies, but they can also grow. So how we started the collaboration with Econoc is really deep diving into their request. What do they really need? How can they scale? That doesn't mean that you need to have the full-scale automation stack already. So you need to have a modular solution for companies that they can grow along the value chain. So you don't need to have this expensive Ferrari on automation that is super expensive. You can also start slow, low, and then in the end you build up as your company is growing over time. And if you then look to what is the wish, in the end, why we're doing it as Siemens, is that we want to integrate supply chains. We want to integrate having from farm to fork a total transparency to reduce cost, to optimize production, and that is in the end the wish of the industry, because we want to help companies, and every stakeholder in the company, in the supply chain, they have different challenges. And I think that is definitely where we want to focus on. And we're not there yet. Definitely, I think that's also nice of this photo. We have many challenges. If we talk about, we want to produce more local, localization, for example, how can you support more regional? I think indoor farming, vertical farming is a great example. We all have challenges. We're spilling water. We need to produce more local. So how can you redefine actually the production of food in more modular instead of mass production, food traveling for thousands of kilometers till it reaches the consumer? How can you change that? But also energy, for example, because the more automation you use, the more energy you're spilling. So how can you actually redefine energy? How can you create new sources of energy? How can you manage the energy with software, but also AI, for example? AI is going to take a really big thing if you want to, for example, analyze big data sets. When can I buy my energy when it's cheap? How can I store it? How can I, for example, I heard already some really innovative ideas to have indoor farms next to data centers, that you reuse the heat of a data center to build that. But if you think about it in the early stages of building a food ecosystem, well, then it's suddenly becoming really interesting. And that's also what we're driving. Start already looking and analyzing in the beginning of your farm or your whole business model, because 80% of these markets are not built yet. So we're talking about a total new industry. So that's why it's so vital and important that also Siemens is here today with the booth, and also last year, to share our knowledge. Well, start thinking already now, because if you want to be in 10 years where we want to be, then you need already to take these steps. Because in 10-year time, we want to be somewhere totally different. Then the first steps need to be taken now, and the technology is basically ready for it. So that is the vision that Siemens wants to spread, and that is not reinventing the wheel. Other markets are already there. If you look to the car industry, the pharmaceutical industry, they have already full chain integration, chain transparency. Software is there, hardware is there, everything is already there what we can use. And I think the food industry is now becoming the industry that is now going to adapt it and take it away.
Thank you. It's a grand scheme of closed loop management, capturing a lot of, let's say, leaks in the system, our food system, a lot of waste, a lot of opportunities with no owners. So can you also give some, let's say, concrete examples how the value is created along by data integration along the chain, and how the stakeholders actually benefit from?
So if you see there on the slide, you see software-driven automation. And that is actually what I want to explain. What is that actually? And that is, I think, super interesting, because software-driven automation is something what we see in general in the industry. And what does it mean is that you're standardizing on the hardware. So the hardware, actually, what you have in the machines and in the solutions what you develop, they are all becoming standardized. Because if you talk to a machine builder, a solution, they are now all islands of automation. And you cannot ask from a machine builder or a solution, make the machine from the future over 20 years. So what you need to do, you need to have the right automation already in your solution that over time, over 10, 20 years, you can add new functionalities. So then basically you have, look at your iPhone. Your iPhone has actually its hardware, but every month there will be a new app, a new functionality. Suddenly you can measure your blood pressure with your iPhone. And all these functionalities are being added. Well, this is also becoming reality with the industry. So you basically are developing something what is scalable, modular for the future. And that is called software-defined automation. And then suddenly we have all the data out of these machines, out of these solutions, and then you can unroll AI with cameras, with sensors, and then you can improve the quality of the crop, measure the whole whole supply chain, and then if you do that from every step in your supply chain, then you can get all the data, and that is becoming really important also for retail, etc., to really track how can we improve, how can we produce the order. Do we really need overspill? Yesterday I heard that almost 50% of our food is being wasted from the moment from the field till it's reaching the consumer. That is a huge amount. So how can we change that amount by being more transparent, more integratable, and the ownership lays in the first steps that need to be taken, because there will be so many new companies with cool ideas, but we need to give them the platform to scale. If they all going to reinvent the wheel and being isolated, nobody can scale. So we need to have a foundation and infrastructure that scalability is possible.
Great. Actually, I'd like to break a little bit to invite our potentially actually another panel. If Sharks would be able to, Sharks from AB InBev, I'd like to give you maybe a comment. As a brewer, you are the head brewer for AB InBev. What are you? Can you mention some of the benefits from this data integration from hubs to brewing, for example, in energy saved, water saved, better beer, better consumer? What is the benefit for AB InBev to be part of this chain?
Thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jacques, hop specialist in AB InBev. So, yeah, I think for us, hop is a difficult plant to grow, right? And I think Ines mentioned that. So we see the erratic climate event, putting this plant at risk. So for us, we see indoor farming really as, let's say, a way to kind of alleviate a bit this risk. So that's one thing. We have some varieties that are very dear to our brands and are sometimes at risk as well. So it's a way to save them. And when it comes to efficiency, so of course it's the beginning of a journey, right? We want to start small, understand how we can disrupt the, let's say, the efficiency of all of these. But as you were telling, Rick, I think long term it's how to fully integrate in all our supply chain and take whether it is, let's say, available, light is available, nutrient from, I don't know, malting, steeping water, you have a lot of nutrient there, CO2 from our fermenters, and all of this needs to be managed from a centralized way. So yeah, we believe it's for sure a long journey ahead of us. It's not like tomorrow it will be done, okay. But firm believer, and we want to be actors.
Great. Thanks for the user testimony. Can I switch this one off? So before I move on to Kaylee, I'd like to ask another analog poll question. I didn't get the tool to work. So the question is, do you think that data integration, integrating data along the supply chain will significantly enhance value creation for all stakeholders along the chain? So we have the growers, the manufacturer, brands, supermarkets, technology companies, consumers. How many say I agree? I only have two choices, agree or not agree. Agree for value creation for all stakeholders, or you don't agree? There will be yes or no. Yes, agree. No, we don't agree. Nobody disagree.
Oh.
Yes.
One disagree. Right, I'll come to you later to ask why you disagree. It's good to have that. Now, Kaylee, what do you think? That's the lead question for you, today's question.
I absolutely agree that we will have more and more value for all stakeholders from better data integration for a number of reasons. So we have, of course, our compliance piece. If you're thinking about sustainability, ESG reporting, the cleaner, more structured, faster data we can get, the more accountable we can be to our stakeholders. And then also thinking about supply and production data is key again, and being able to have access to demand forecasting, being able to communicate that to our suppliers, so we're actually stopping food waste at the source and making sure that we produce and purchase the right amount all the way down to when it actually reaches the consumer. So that we're able to utilize that data and benefit everyone throughout the supply chain. I think it's key. I think everyone only has more to gain.
Great. So with today's environment, you have a lot of regulations at the EU level for Scope 3, CSRD reporting. At the same time, consumers are asking for better traceability, better sensibility, but there's also the living cost pressure. So supermarket, being at that front of the chain, has a lot of this kind of a competing demands and needs and wishes. So how does that shape the strategy for Ahold Delhaize?
Well, for Ahold Delhaize in particular, sustainability and health are core to our overall business strategy. We're very public about that. So it's not a choice of this or that. It's something that we have to do beyond compliance. It's something that our customers care about. It's something that our stakeholders care about throughout the value chain. So that's never the question. It's a question of where are we going to start? I think there's so much that we do currently, so much more we'd like to do, but we set very public targets on Scope 3, also our Scope 1 and 2, of course, on healthy food availability. We really try to look at it holistically. And really the goal there for me, coming from the strategy and business development team, is to think about how we can pull in more innovation with that. So I think there's that shift from, okay, we need to be compliant here, to how can we actually make a business case to do something new here, to be more innovative and more sustainable at the same time. So we're trying to look at it through that entire lens.
So you believe that the data integration for Ahold Delhaize in the future should go beyond just assurance, because that's what it's currently about, is for the safety of compliance. But you do want to see, or you believe in, that the data integration, as we discussed here, will help Ahold to potentially develop a new business model or new products.
It absolutely has. We see the way that AI in particular can be applied to every aspect of our business to make us more efficient and more sustainable. An example that I really like is the dynamic markdown program within Albert Heijn. So for those that don't know, we have about 16 brands, including Albert Heijn and Bol here in the Netherlands. And Albert Heijn's done a fantastic job of actually applying data and AI to different places to minimize food waste. So they have electronic shelf labels in all the stores. If you haven't noticed, walk in and check it out. And through that, they're actually able to maintain a balance throughout the day to make sure that all food approaching its expiry date is sold off. And this is done automatically in the background. So it's done from a centralized location, applying real-time data and machine learning. So it's an incredible innovation. Most grocery stores are perfectly capable of this, but they're not doing it yet. So we're already looking farther and farther to see where can we apply this, what can we do.
Okay, great. So far with Ines and Rick and Kaylee, we have a very positive outlook of the future of our food system, that technology is there, the will is there, that there's also a lot of chances to capture the opportunities that is not currently leaks of the system. So that sounds like a brave new world. It's great. But we should all maybe hug around, do a kumbaya together. But let's have a poll question. So yesterday we just had the result of the European Parliament election. How many followed it? We know there's a lot of big shifts happening in Europe. And so the poll question is, are you optimistic about the future of EU sustainability policies in the face of current political, economic shifts or challenges? So if you're optimistic side, raise your hand, optimistic. Little less hands than the current business model. And you're not optimistic, raise your hand. Now we have some honest answers now, I think. Okay, great. So I still come back to our, no longer anymore. Dick, you are experienced, actually founder of really the interface between food and politics. And you are very, very closely involved with the farmers movement in Holland as well, and as a EU level. You observe very much being the grease between the big brands and the farmers and consumers. So what is your take on the current, take a step back. Taking a step back, give us a kind of reality check. Are you optimistic?
Well, actually, I am optimistic
Okay.
because, well, you are from AB InBev, but your sustainability program, you won't scale it back because you've started. And actually, all big companies I know, even they say about Bayer and Syngenta that they were very happy with the pesticide reduction program being cut down. Well, they aren't. I can assure you they aren't, because you need something. You need something you need a common policy. So I guess that in the end, companies won't scale down their efforts, but they will have to learn to work together. And that is the big challenge. Government, well, will have a center movement with something of right wing, something left wing, but will just muddle through. And it all depends on companies, actually, what they understand. If I look at McCain, for example, a Canadian company, they introduced regenerative agriculture in the Netherlands. There is a government program of 130 million euros promoting regenerative agriculture, and they are already doing it. And they are the world's poster boy, and they won't scale it back. So actually, I'm positive. What I'm less positive about is how, because the opportunities are there, and as Rick is saying, data are going to take over. And as Keely is confirming, this is happening. But at the same time, margins are very thin in the food chain, terribly thin, so thin that you don't want to share your process with, well, your suppliers or your buyers. And actually, that is where the money is. All the people I know from retail who have retired and who work now as consultants, they'll all tell me there is a lot of money being squandered in the food chain itself. All the opportunities you're talking about, Keely, and you're doing it, they're doing it, not you, they are doing it in their own chains. Ahold Delhaize is a front runner in doing that, but they aren't really doing it yet across the chain. And that will happen if data start to be more important. Now, we were talking about CSRD, CSDDD. That's something that will continue to be. And actually, it forces companies to, well, to share their data. And once we learn that from, well, the show you run on reducing food waste, we'll discover that there is far more to be gained. And that is what is going to happen, obviously. But it won't happen really today because there are these thin margins. Prices have stabilized after inflation on a high level, so it won't happen tomorrow. But it'll happen somewhere soon, but not tomorrow.
So who is still missing to speed up this speed up this adoption?
The examples.
Because we have here quite a lot of stakeholders.
The examples will do it. So those who, well, there is another trend. Of course, the raw materials get scarce. So there is a huge challenge in filling the supply chain. Supply chain security is very important. And data, obviously, will help you getting to that tipping point.
So my question is also to everybody here, the last question. What do you see the biggest challenge to effective data integration? We talked about importance of it, it's happening, but what are the big challenges? Ines?
So from our point of view, we use data at two different levels. One is the data that we share with our clients, in terms of, okay, what was used in producing these hops, or when was it produced, who produced it, what is the quality levels, all that stuff. That, I don't think there's too much of a challenge in sharing. The other part of the data is the data that we can use for building AI and machine learning models, et cetera, to grow our hops better, more efficiently, but also better with different characteristics, et cetera. In that part, in our case, there's not that much data available because it is a crop that hasn't been really digitalized until now.
Yeah.
So if you told me if there was somebody else doing it, would you share your data with them? I'm not sure I would, but I'd give it a thought. Okay, but I think in the end I would. I think my first reaction would be no way, but probably I'd figure out, okay, no, we can both go faster if we do share that data, if we have more data to learn from. But yeah, I think most people will have my first initial reaction of no way, no. You know, I've worked very hard to build that data set. You know.
I think that's probably a common voice among the what is the value of sharing this data.
Yeah.
Rick, what do you think? You want to build an ecosystem to facilitate
Yeah.
data sharing across the chain and across different sectors. What is you see as the biggest challenge for your business?
Well, I wanted to comment also or to contribute why data sharing is a necessity, because on the one hand side there will come regulations from the EU. Let's say already in the CPG market, where does your raw material come from? So meaning that retail need to prove where does your raw material come from. But there are many factors like sustainability, child labor, all the things around it. You need to prove where does your product come from. An example with pet food, for example, is a lot of rest waste what is being used for pet food. We have a really big protein challenge, we need to double our protein by the year 2050. If you think about where does a protein need to come from, you need to track it. So, for example, insect farms, also in a controlled environment, vertical farms, all these things where you're in a controlled environment, you can actually track with data. So you actually come back really to the source that you can track where does my raw material come from. You have it through the whole supply chain. And in the end, the consumer and the retail, they need to prove it because the EU will ask for it in the upcoming years. So is on the one hand side, yeah, do we need to do it? Yes, there will, in the end, it will change either way. Where does the biggest challenge lay? Well, if we don't start collaborating, collaboration is key because we need to have defined standards. What kind of data standards do we need to have? Because we're not talking about sharing data. We need to make rules. What kind of data? What kind of machines? Where does machine need to? What kind of data standard do we need to provide? Who is owning data?
Yeah.
And the more and more, if we talk about it, the more regulations there will come, the more professionalized we need to be. So it is not like a big threat, it is just a really big opportunity, but we need to be aware of that everybody is reinventing or staying on these islands. We will not reach the goal in time, because also we need to change because our food system needs to change. We need more sustainability. All these points what I already mentioned in the beginning.
So data standards, but where to start? I look at Kaylee. There's maybe 3 million SKUs at the Ahold brand. You need to know all the scope 3, where they come from. All your data need to come in to be a form that you can report, you can analyze, you can validate. Should you take the lead in developing the standard format because you are the end pole of the chain, let's say?
Ultimately, we will have to take responsibility for all of that data and all of our suppliers, which is really a challenge with all of those different countries, all of the different regulations. So there's definitely, we have our work cut out for us, I would say, with that. But ultimately, we come up against a few challenges. One is the variety of SKUs that you mentioned. Another one, honestly, is legacy technology. That's one of the biggest issues that we run into that people don't talk about as much. Yeah. If you think about these large companies that have been through a lot of mergers and acquisitions, they've got many different systems on the back end gathering and processing this data. That's another real challenge that we have to deal with, is how do we update the underlying infrastructure that's processing and handling all of this data, just speaking very practically.
So actually on that, it's more than technology data, it's actually also the stakeholders, the existing stakeholders who do not want to change their way of working things. Right?
And it's a significant investment, which for a sector with 4% margin on a good day, it's a challenge.
Back to the
I can also comment to that indeed, is that a lot of big food processing companies, they have bought also a lot of other factories. So it's not that you can decide everything. So it's also, you have a jungle of automation. So it's not that easy to have all the data coming out of a total supply chain. So it is actually quite a challenge, and that's why you need to be aware of, okay, everything what is now being there, okay, there is new technology coming that you can get data out of it, but also what is newly built, that we be aware of that really critical infrastructure. So that, I think, it's a multiple year plan, also looking into the future.
Well, Dick, that's a question to you because you also mentioned CSRD will stay, Green Deal will continue, despite the political wind. But if you look at CSRD coming from regulatory requirement, of course, that will add burden to growers and farmers if it's just for assurance and reporting. So how do you see that a player that should be needed to, or should be Apple Heza, should be a technology company, to bring this data integration really into creating new business, so creating new margin instead of all competing for the 4% at a good day?
We've been talking technology until now. I think what you need is trust. Otherwise, you won't start sharing your data. Ines, that is what you just said, because you know how valuable your experience turned into data about your processes is. So how do you start trust? You can only earn it. So you have to understand that someone understands the world the way you do. And then you start out doing something together. And when it works, and when you build a certain ethics, you'll start out doing it. And that is, I think, what companies like, I can see what Albert Heijn is doing in the Netherlands. They've built their chains and it works. They've set standards. And that is something that'll have to continue, and someone has to do it. Well, who is doing it? Is it indeed a neutral technology company like Siemens? Because there are all kinds, I call it, there are all kinds of opportunities that don't have an owner. New business models will come up, but they don't have an owner. But they depend on the data turned into information by AI. So you don't even know what the opportunity is once it is there. And that is, you have to start experimenting. Otherwise, it'll never happen. So apart from standards and all kinds of extracting technologies that leave legacy systems behind, you need to build experiments to build trust. Well, in the EU, CSRD won't go away, so there is a lot of room for experiments. And I can think of some of the experiments, but let's not go into that right now.
Let's open up for the audience. We have maybe already, I'm looking at the participant. You are only one that raised hands to, can you explain why? And your...
Yes, of course. My name is Rick. I'm working for Experience Food Quality, data AI company. And I was not really agreeing on that because what we noticed is that a lot of stakeholders in a supply chain, they look too much to their own profits. And they are not really, I'm in favor of data integration. I think it's the best way. And I think in the end, the consumer is the winner in the end. But if you look to the different stakeholders, let's say a wholesaler, he's maybe more interested to get the best profits out of it. And we noticed, and we are also really busy to do data integration with the different companies, that they are not really open to it because in the end, it's supply and demand. So if there is no demand and there is a high supply, they are going to claim. And if they know the quality, what they are doing, what's in transit, what's happening there, or what the grower is doing, it's not in the favor of some companies. So that's why I'm saying I'm totally in favor of it, but the reality is not really the case, in my opinion.
The food chain is extremely transactional, and that is why it is difficult to overcome this barrier. I agree with you. And yet, Albert Heijn is the example of a retailer who reintegrated their food chain, actually giving more margin away to farmers, for example.
My father is actually a farmer of Albert Heijn. Potatoes, carrots, onions. I think 30 years already a supplier.
Wow.
And I think Albert Heijn has the luxury that they have the whole supply chain, right? They have Bakker Barendrecht, and they have their farmers, and they have their own network. But I think the other reality is that not other supermarkets and other wholesalers have this luxury. So yeah, it's still there, and I think Albert Heijn is doing a good job. So my father also has a sign, a sustainable farmer. So yeah, they are really focusing on that.
So one thing, what if you would have that data in some kind of like a third party body or something? That multiple of, I'm just thinking of that, the multiple retailers that you have a platform and that indeed you can misuse a chain really easy if you own the whole transparency for your own benefit. But if you can think about something that multiple retail or multiple people have something from it, but a third party body is controlling that, or it's like a pool of data that everybody's winning, because indeed everybody needs to win. Till if only one part in a supply chain is winning, it's never going to fly. But till the moment that everybody's winning, fair prices for agriculture, sustainable products for the consumer, then everybody's winning. But if somebody in the chain is misusing it, then it will not fly. So I think the key lays in indeed collaboration, trust, and also that everybody's winning. Fair prices also for agriculture, that it becomes sustainable, but it's also profitable to develop new kind of sustainable food production. And I think a lot of the win is made in food processing. If you look to the total, till the price that the consumer is paying, and agriculture is not earning that much. So it needs also to have a fair pricing model through the whole value chain.
Thank you for sharing your ideas. Please. You have to come forward for the microphone. Please introduce yourself and your question.
Hello, hi everyone. Nicola Linnei from the Agribit Summit. Is there an industry, a sector in which agriculture, horticulture, animal farming can take inspiration about this neutral body for data storage and dissemination across the supply chain? Has it ever happened somewhere that we can learn from in agriculture?
I guess the gadget industry, building an iPhone requires you to collaborate with everyone. Automotive probably is an example, but the product is very different.
Yeah,
It's a dead product. This is a living product.
I would say pharmaceuticals.
And
as
pharmaceuticals,
well. Yeah, you're required to share a lot of data for many years aftermarket for safety reasons, for other reasons, patents. So there are large pools of public, regulated, structured data available that can be used.
And so who profits from that data in the end? Is that a third party? Is it an organization? Is that a company that owns that data? How does it work?
Well, with pharma, for example, it's just also regulation. You need to know where a medicine is coming from. So if I buy a medicine, or for example, there's something wrong with the medicine, you exactly want to know where is it being sold. You can track it till the moment you exactly know which medicine is sold to which consumer or which person. So that is all there. In the end, it's also, and that is also different with agriculture. It's a total different game, right? You're talking about living objects. It's really about changing a market. But the more you, of course, growing in a controlled environment, it's getting more easy, of course, to track it. If you have land-based agriculture, it's more difficult. But if you have a vertical farm or an indoor farm, or you grow hops indoor, it's way easier to track it than when it's mass production. So I think it's also depending a little bit how you frame that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, please.
I have a question for Ines. My name is Joyce. I work for Grodan. So we are a substrate company right there. Ines, you're making quite a transition in the hop producing industry, if I may say so, from a soil-grown plant to an indoor cultivated plant. Can you elaborate a little bit on your biggest changes? I mean, you're changing the system, the growing concept. What are really the biggest transitions that you're pushing through?
I think the biggest thing was actually daring to do it. I think when we told some brewers in Spain that we wanted to grow hops indoors, they said impossible. I said, okay, hold my beer, let's go. So that was the first challenge. I think a lot of the things that we've done with hops, I think we got pretty far because we knew nothing about hops. and then we didn't have preconceived ideas of what we could do or what we couldn't do with hops. So the first few crop cycles were actually done sort of in the dark. We'd been growing leafy greens and herbs and microgreens and stuff like that, and we just sort of came to this new crop. Let's see, let's play with it. When we got preliminary results, then we started getting the feedback from the hops expert. And there, people like AB InBev has been very useful, but also Estrella Galicia, a local brewer in Spain that has helped us a lot, and different people that we've been able to access to their knowledge. But I think, we've used a lot of the outdoor knowledge, but especially making sure that we can control everything and that we can trick the plant to produce. So right now, for example, we're at 3.5 harvests per year, where outdoor, you only have 1. Okay, our objective is to get to 4 harvests per year. And this, one of the things was, conventional wisdom in the industry was, no, the plant needs to get the hibernation, it needs to rest for the winter. We said, let's see what happens. It would just start again, and it did. So.
Bingo.
Great.
You had bingo.
I would like to conclude our session, and then thank you everybody for being here, for participating, and for the questions. Thank you very much.